Sell it and start over, because sometimes it's easier to build from scratch, doing the right thing, than to turn an organization as large as we were with all these challenges. I wasn't ready to sell. I just really gave it to the Lord and said, Lord, do I need to sell? The Lord very clearly, before I even got to my house, told me, he says, Jason, I don't want you to sell. And you're right. You don't have what it takes, but I do. Hello, welcome to the GuideLight podcast. I'm Jason Trent, your host, and today we're going to be talking about what buyers look for in founder-led companies. And one of the things right off the bat I like to talk about is they look for predictability over personality. Now, I come from an industry, in the insurance industry, we have a lot of personalities, and I can say that because I'm one of them. But a lot of times when you're a business owner, and if you have a strong personality and if you have a salesmanship in you, there's all these kind of things you want to talk about, and you're passionate about your business. So you're going to believe and say all these great things. I'm not saying that's wrong. You should be passionate about your business and you should be excited about it. But what buyers really want is they want predictability. What in your business is predictable? Because that's going to be the most important thing to them. Because the reality is, obviously, a lot of business owners that sell, they leave, or they leave eventually. Even if you're going to stay on for 2 or 3 years, they know you're not going to be the future, but your business is. And the things that you built, everything you've built is going to be the future. So what is predictable in your business is the most important thing. Kind of segues into my next topic that I was going to talk on. This was about your financial. And unfortunately, this was one of my weak points. And as I owned a business, I always leaned on other people for the financials because it was something I understood and I had a grasp on it. I just did not enjoy walking through them. And sometimes I didn't even like allowing my financials to help make decisions, which a good, wise, CEO or business owner should look to your financials to help give predictability in your business and guardrails in your business. Again, transparently, I was one of those business owners that I was just, I had all these ideas, I had these thoughts, and sometimes I'd make decisions that if I'd had a strong CFO or I'd put things in place around my financials, we probably would have been more profitable. Those type of things in your business, when it comes to predictability and your financials, I just bring those two together because they tie hand in hand. Because again, that's what they're going to be looking at. What do your financials look like? Are you using forecasting? Are you doing any of these things that they know exemplifies good stewardship over the resources you have? And again, at the end of the day, if you haven't done that really well, like me, there's time to work around that. And that's one of the things we always try to work with clients on. If we get with you about a year or two out, we can work on that and kind of get you in line. And it doesn't always take, if you were like me and you didn't like financials, you don't like people messing with your money or telling you what to do. There's a lot of ways you can do that subtly, but also making big impact. So those are just a couple of strategies you definitely want to look at when it comes to looking to sell your business. So I will say this, one of the things that buyers really enjoy about founder-led companies, especially if it's done really well, because I think I see this more so in founder-led companies than others, but it really is around your leadership depth and your culture, and making sure that that's been a top priority of yours. And I'll just go ahead and tell you my story a little bit. When it came to culture and it came to leadership depth, for a number of years in my business, as we were growing and doing acquisitions, I didn't have a lot of that. And I was growing, my financials looked good, but when it came to managing that growth, when it came to leadership, my leadership bench was very shallow. I didn't have a lot of people, and that was my own fault because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't trying to develop it. I wasn't developing them. I wasn't spending time and energy with my team. And the culture had gotten a little toxic because we had all this growth, and we weren't making our mission, vision, values the number one thing in our business, and letting that spread out throughout the organization. And it was around 2017, and it was really you've heard me talk about this organization a lot, C12. They really opened my eyes to where we were at as an organization. Lack of depth. Culture really wasn't that great. And I'll never forget a gentleman named Martin. He was an older, more seasoned individual. He challenged me. He saw what I was doing. He says, "Why don't you just sell your business?" And I was like, well, why would I do that? Because in his eyes, he was just challenging me. He wasn't saying I need to. But you've got all the numbers. He goes, but it's just, you've got this mess to clean up. Maybe God's telling you just to start over. Like, not get out of business, but just sell it and start over. Because sometimes it's easier to build from scratch, doing the right thing, than to turn an organization as large as we were with all these challenges. And so I took that to heart. I wasn't ready to sell, but I remember I was walking in my driveway, and I've told this story before, but I was walking at my house from a barn to the driveway, and I just really gave it to the Lord and said, Lord, do I need to sell? Because I'm in a mess, and everything I see is not good. And quite frankly, I don't know if I have what it takes to turn this thing around. I was just being transparent. And the Lord very clearly, before I even got to my house, told me, he says, Jason, I don't want you to sell. And you're right. You don't have what it takes, but I do. And I will bring people around you to fulfill this vision and this mission that I've called you to. And as soon as he told me that, I was right as rain. Literally, I got excited because I was like, okay, God's with me. We're going to do this. And long story short, the help of C12 and just really focusing on what needed to happen, building leadership, making culture the number one thing. We slowed down on some of our acquisitions until we got some things right. And it was the most phenomenal thing in all my business years that I think that I've ever experienced, and just building up other leaders to watch them come alongside me. I'll never forget, it was about a year later after I had that walk in my driveway that I was on a conference Zoom call, and there were 9 of us. I was a small company. There were 9 of us on a leadership call. And I had to tell that story because it was almost a year to the date that happened. And I shared that testimony of what God said he was going to do, and he did it. And I was just in awe. And he continues to do that. So, that whole story is about, culture and leadership. Get focused on it. Make sure your team knows that your culture is the number one thing over everything. Like, it's got to be over profits. It's got to be the lenses you look through. It's got to be why people want to come to work. For culture and leadership, people want to know there's opportunities in their organizations, and they want to feel rewarded, heard, and seen. And when they see someone get elevated from position A to B, that matters. That matters immensely. And so if that's not something that's on your radar, I strongly want to encourage you to start looking for that, because that's what business owners or buyers are looking for from business owners and founders. Is they want to see strong culture. They want to see strong depth of leadership, because they know that as you transition out, they don't want to have to come in and fix basically the mess I'd created years ago in my own business. And I think that's something that will serve you well, for years and years to come. Like I said, I always say this, even if you don't plan on selling your business, that's going to serve you well no matter what. Hello, everybody. I'm Jason Trent, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Really want to encourage you to check out our GuideLight podcast. The GuideLight podcast is kind of an extension arm, an outreach arm of GuideLight Legacy Advisors. I'm the president and founder. Basically, what we do is help lead and guide businesses in mergers and acquisitions, but also, like even before that, we help businesses walk through problems and challenges that lead up to mergers and acquisition, because ultimately, you're going to sell and merge one day. So anyways, we just have content, develop content with all sorts of tips and ideas to help you as a leader, as a business leader and a business owner. So we really hope you would check us out and subscribe today. Okay, so this next topic that I want to bring up when it comes to, founders and making a transition where, so a business is going to come in and acquire you, is it kind of speaks a little bit to what I said earlier about some of the financial pieces and some of these other things, but it's really about the due diligence. So this is the point where you've decided to sell, you've went through all these other steps, and the business has made you an offer. Everyone's kind of excited, but then the business that's going to acquire you says, okay, we got to go through this due diligence, and they're just going to inspect what they expect, and it's based on all your conversations. Now the data just has to support it. And any good buyer is going to do this. Every single buyer is going to do this. Matter of fact, if the buyer doesn't do it, I'd be careful. But due diligence is that process where they're going to really look under the hood at your financials. They're going to really look at, from an HR standpoint, they're going to look at all the practices you had. They're going to look at every contract you've ever signed. They're going to really get under the hood. And I've seen so many business owners just get really frustrated about that process. They feel like they're being, inspected, like, hey, don't they take my word? Don't they know I have a good business? And I always try to coach people through that. It's like, yes, they do, but they're spending, 7 figures or more on your business. They need to go through and make sure what you've said is right. And so they do get in there, and it can be very frustrating because, again, a lot of founders, and I was one of those, I didn't like all the record keeping, all the stuff they were asking and chasing all those things down. But we just try to prepare our clients to go through that due diligence well. And also, if you prepare your organization ahead of time for that due diligence, it's way easier to walk through. Matter of fact, because I had gotten some wise counsel and I brought in some fractional CFO, our records were pretty good. You still have to go through things that, again, record keeping and all that's really important, but the emotional aspect, I've literally seen business owners who are looking to sell walk away from the deal because of due diligence out of frustration. Now, I don't say that to scare you off. Like I said, we always try to be transparent with our client. You just be ready for that and walk through it. And sometimes everything they ask for isn't always needed. So again, working with a good advisor, they can give pushback and not make you have to jump through too many hoops, because all this process is a negotiation. So that's something to learn. But you never want your emotions to get the better of you whenever you're walking through something like this. Because again, there's just something unique about founders and their business when they're passing it off that, to be honest with you, I don't always see with people that are either second generation or just, they weren't the original founders, and it's just the emotions are just, less attached, as rightfully so. So that's something I think is very important for business owners to understand, and it'll just make everything go smoother if you know that going up, on the front end, and then you're coached and prepared way before that day even comes, and it just makes it a lot easier to jump through those hoops. I hope you found value in this tidbit of information that I kind of shared with you today. And like I said, I know there's tons more, and that's one of the reasons we developed this GuideLight assessment. So one of the things I really encourage you to do, in the description below, you'll see a link to, it's free, our GuideLight assessment. Just give you some feedback. It kind of gives you a snapshot of where you are on things. So check it out, take it, it's free. And hopefully it brings you value. And if you've enjoyed listening to today's podcast, like us or subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're from. And we thank you for your time and hope to see you on the next podcast.